Welcome back to the Elias Macko Show in the third hour of the program. Now, the Trump administration is looking to add another 10% tariff on countries, they say, who import goods allegedly manufactured using forced labor. One of those countries on the list is Canada. In a statement, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer says it's unacceptable that the U.S.'s major trading partners are unable to fight against the importation of goods made with forced labor. But as we all know, this is an administration that has tried to impose tariffs, at times being rebuked by U.S. courts. So let's talk about this a little bit more. Ian Lee is with us, associate professor at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Ian, welcome back to the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Elias.
I want your instant take here. My gut reaction is, well, you know what? They are hell-bent on tariffs. They'll figure out any way to impose them. Am I off base here? What's your assessment?
You're absolutely right. I wrote a paper back in, I think it was January, an op-ed in Maclean's, and this is his raison d'etre. And just for the record, I'm not, even though it may sound like when I'm interpreting what he's doing, I'm not in agreement with him. I just think tariffs are just the worst possible thing of all. I'm a free trader, and free trade is the antithesis of tariffs. That's what free trade agreements does. They remove tariffs. He's trying to put them back on. And this is bad economics. We've known that for 250 years. Okay. He thinks that they're great to make America great again. He's trying to bring manufacturing and other economic activity back to the States. That's what he's up to. And the fact that I think he's crazy doesn't really matter, so we won't bring that up again. Okay. So what he did, though, is the Supreme Court struck down those tariffs back in January. And so he promised at the time, he said, well, we're just going to do it another way. And so, Elias, you're absolutely right. What he did, he went and told his, bureaucrats, his advisors, go figure out a way that I can do it legally. And so they did what they did. Instead of just a blanket tariff because we don't like we're doing it to retaliate against these other countries, which is the original justification. He said, well, we're going to find a reason that is allowed under the legislation passed by Congress. And in the legislation, they found this clause, this section that allows them to impose tariffs for certain behaviors. And one is that countries are accepting or trading with countries that use slave labor or labor that has been treated very, very badly. And so this became their hook, the thing that they're going to hang their hat on. And it will get appealed to the courts. Whether or not the courts will sustain it or not is yet to be seen. But right now, that's what they've done. These are replacing, in essence, the tariffs that were struck down in January this year by the Supreme Court of the United States.
Ian, I just want to say, I so feel you. I do feel as a radio host, sometimes even just understanding and explaining to an audience that you understand is perceived as support. People are so touchy on Trump. So I totally get you, man, because I felt the same way at times. So, but let me ask you this. The policy here, the being hell-bent on tariffs, is it working for the guy? Are there signs that it will work? Is it blowing up in his face? If he's doubling down, does he have any indication that it's working? So why don't we get into that from the American perspective? Is there a reason to still be on tariffs like they are?
I'm glad you asked that question because I do think that is the question we should be asking. Setting aside our anger at Donald Trump, and by the way, we're all angry at him, understandably so. But that's not, when you're dealing with policy and strategy and policy analysis, you got to look at, okay, is it working? And I will be very frank with you. I don't think it is. Now, clearly, I have a bias. I don't believe in tariffs. But I've studied the data every day coming out of the States, inflation, unemployment, and so forth. And there are defenders who say, look, the economy is still going strong. It is. But here's my take. I argue that the economy is weakening, number one. The inflation is moving up, which is predicted when you impose tariffs because it raises the cost of goods. So for those who say, yeah, but the economy is still going strong, my response is it would be doing better if he had not put the tariffs on. But the American economy is so strong. It is the largest economy on planet Earth. I keep saying that because people don't, I think, really realize how enormous this economy is. It's $32 trillion. The next largest economy in the world, and it's huge, and it's not even close to the U.S., is China. It's $20 trillion. Well, the difference between 32 trillion and 20 trillion is just gigantic. And China is very large too. And so my point is the U.S. economy is so strong, not because of Trump, but because that's just the nature of the U.S. economy. It has been since for 150 years. It's been the superpower.
But what is that nature? So this is like I think everyone in Canada needs to be paying attention to what we're talking about right now. Okay, so this what you're saying is the U.S. economy is strong, not because of Donald Trump, but in spite of Donald Trump. Okay,
that's what I just that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, but
I just did a presentation. I use this every year in my students' class too, but I give it to a bunch of business people, and they, I keep getting this question: why is, if this crazy guy's there, why is it so successful? And I argue, first and foremost, the strength of the American economy long predates Donald Trump, about 150 years before Donald Trump was alive. So let's not give Donald Trump the credit for the strength of the economy. And then people say, okay, but why? And my answer is, and this is my answer, and others may give you a different answer. I've looked at the data up, down, left, and right. They spend approximately double as a percentage of GDP. So we're not comparing the fact that they're just a bigger economy. As a percentage of GDP, they spend about double any other country on R&D. R&D is a big fancy word for innovation. Mm-hmm. Everybody understands the word innovation. That produces new things like a smartphone, like an iPhone. It produces the internet. It produces autonomous vehicles. It produces EVs. The Americans have been innovating like crazy since the 1800s, with the advent of the telegraph and the telephone and mass production and Henry Ford. And they just do it bigger, and because they're so committed to it, and they do it more ruthlessly than anybody else. And as a consequence, they attract more foreign direct investment around the world into the U.S. I've got the latest data. They bring in about $1/3 trillion a year. I want everybody to understand this. Foreign direct investment is rich people in other countries saying, I'm out of here. I'm out of Russia. I want to go to America because I can make more money. We, Canada, have lost $1 trillion. Lost is probably the wrong word. $1 trillion of capital investment in the last 10, 12 years has migrated. Capital is mobile, has migrated to the United States. Why? Because they say, hey, I can make more money there. So they attract money from around the world, which is wealthy people and wealthy corporations with money to invest who go into the States because they believe that economy is more innovative and more dynamic than any other country in the world. So the Americans even get wealthier because of wealthy people else in the rest of the world who are trying to get out of China or get out of Russia or get out of Iran or get out of Venezuela. And so this money just pours into the United States because it's seen as, I call it the center of capitalism. It is, it's seen as the most capitalist country in the world. Now, some people can say, I hate capitalism. Okay, that's fine. I'm just explaining why the U.S. is so successful. They innovate like crazy. They're very pro-business, whether it's a Democratic government or a Republican government. They're very pro-business. Taxes are low compared to many countries. And so business and wealth goes there because they can make more money.
All right, we're having a great conversation on the Elias Macko Show with Ian Lee. He's from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. We began this hour by talking about this new threat from the U.S. of an additional 10% tariff on Canada and other countries. We turned our attention to just how robust the American economy is. Things seem to be zooming in that economy, regardless of Donald Trump policy. So, Ian, right before the break, what I threw at you is the U.S. economy succeeding not because of Trump, but in spite of Trump. And then you outlined, this case about what leads to that U.S. economy, the innovation, the R&D, on and on and on. You made a great case. And then I said, I need to throw you a curveball. Here's the curveball.
Okay.
I see examples in recent years from around the world of governments coming in, changing policy, and it's almost immediate how it can derail or tank an economy. I've seen it in Europe, right? There are a lot of people in Europe that are trying to turn back the clock to pre-industrialization in Europe at times. Canada, we elected Justin Trudeau. It was almost overnight that this economy just fell off a cliff, right? And we've had to make it seem like the economy is doing well by high rates of immigration, right? Just increase the numbers. And so this is what I don't understand. Like I can point to examples where governments come in, they make bad decisions, boom, economy tanked. Well, why, if Donald Trump is making bad decisions, why isn't that happening there too?
Okay, that's an excellent question. And believe me, I've heard it before because it's profound. You're right. So here's my take. And just bear with me. First off, I don't want to, I'm not trying to whitewash or, excuse Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. Of course, leaders can make bad decisions that can hurt the economy. Number one, the American economy is so enormous. There's no other economy on planet Earth that comes even close to the American economy. It's $32 trillion, which is just staggering. We're $2.2 trillion, by the way, just to give you a scale or a reference point. But the second point I want to make is I don't think most people, or I don't know anyone else that makes this argument. I really deeply believe that the American president does not run the American economy. Let me explain. I was in Moscow teaching a few years ago, and some economist, really smart economist, said, we want you to tell us who really in the White House is telling which company to do what. I said, nobody in the White House is doing that. The American economy, they're just gazillionaires and billionaires, and they run the economy. Forbes magazine says there's 1,750 billionaires in the U.S. economy, and there are several thousand multimillionaires. Who's running the American economy? The billionaires and the millionaires who decide to start a business, expand a business, go into a new product line, develop a new technology. They are running the U.S. economy. Now, that's where the innovation's occurring. It's not because Donald Trump goes and tells company A, B, C, D, E, E, or F to go develop a new product or he doesn't. Yes, the Congress has an impact on the president because they can affect the economy indirectly at a very macro level, such as the corporate income tax rate, or of course, tariffs. But, industry is extraordinarily innovative, especially in the States. You can hire top-notch accountants, top-notch corporate lawyers to figure out how to get around the latest rules and regulations coming out of Washington. So my answer is that because the American economy is bottom-up, it's not top-down like Russia or China, where the big brain at the top, everything bottlenecks up there because the big brain has to make all the big decisions. The U.S. is a highly decentralized system. Individual businesses, anybody can just start up a business in the United States. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. The red tape is very minimal compared to Canada or many other countries where we put all kinds of barriers, all kinds of rules and regulations in front of a business or a future business to start up. Whereas in the States, the red tape and the rules and the regulations and the bureaucracy are very minimal. Now, if one is a progressive, they'll say, but that's terrible because that allows inequality and it allows discrimination. And I'm not denying that. There's a lot of inequality in the United States. If you're wealthy, you have a great life. If you're poor in the United States, you have a terrible life. But that's the price that the Americans have chosen to pay. They accept much greater inequality. They have far fewer social programs. We all know that. They don't redistribute income like we do. We don't like homelessness. We don't like poverty. And so we have very high progressive rates of income tax. And then we redistribute from higher income people to lower income people with all kinds of social programs. The United States don't. They have far fewer social programs. Tax rates are far lower. And it's a system that encourages wealth creation and getting rich. And our system and the Europeans, put all kinds of restrictions on that. You could say maximum speed limits on the road. And there's no speed limits in the American system. It's just go make money.
So let me, as we say that, let me tell you, I'm looking at TV sets of Canadian TV channels.
Yep.
And they're showing Mark Carney right now because he's speaking at this moment. And he is announcing, along with we have an AI minister, Evan Solomon, who's been on the show. He's a former Bell Media host.
Yeah.
And so
I know him.
Evan and Mark Carney, they're both announcing Canada's AI strategy and an AI fund.
Yes.
Government's gonna spend $500 million of taxpayers' money on an AI fund this morning.
Yeah.
It is not lost on me that Microsoft spends $500 million right now every day on its own.
Yes.
They spend $500 million every day. Canada says, we're going to get involved. We're going to have our ministers and our government officials lead the charge in AI. And here's $500 million of taxpayer money. And I say, this is it in a nutshell as to why we're stuck in neutral and why the U.S. is just full steam ahead.
You just put your finger on it, and I was going to bring that up. I really was. The government is leading. That's the key word. The key word, leading. In the United States, the government does not lead initiatives in the private sector. We built $50 billion of battery plants. The government of Canada. In the United States, the government does not do that except in the most extraordinarily unusual circumstances.
Yeah.
And even then, they won't own the battery plant. They will give grants to businesses to go build the damn battery plant. But they don't.
And then I ask you, Ian, which is the country that has Panasonic and CATL and Tesla making more batteries than they ever have? Is it Canada or is it the U.S.?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they have a very, I'm not trying to suggest the U.S. government isn't strong at the top, but the key point that I'm making is they don't micromanage each business. In Canada, we micromanage every business. There he is saying how much you're going to spend on AI and by business, and they're going to do training for businesses. This is not, I like to use a different metaphor. You know, the government should be the referee of the hockey game. It should not be telling Sidney Crosby when to shoot the puck. That's the role of the individual coach of the individual hockey team. The hockey coaches and the general managers and the hockey players should decide how to run the hockey, how they're going to run their game plan for the game. Whereas in Canada, we want the government to tell each of the hockey players how to play hockey. That's the difference between us and the U.S.
Ian, we got a minute 30 left. I got 90 seconds for you here. So forget about Trump. Let's talk about our guy. Let's talk about Mark Carney, who says that we're going to become an AI leader because of this announcement. I'm seeing the Chiron, the superimposed text there on CTV News Channel. We're going to become a leader right now. So give me your hot take. It's now been over a year of Mark Carney as Prime Minister. How is he doing leading the Canadian economy?
I'm going to be very, very frank, and I don't belong to any political party, and I do not donate money to any political party, and I do not allow lawn signs during a campaign if they're in any political party. It's a mixed bag. Some of the things he's doing, reversing some of the worst Trudeau, and I was an extreme critic of Justin Trudeau because of his economic policies. And I thought he made the decisions were they hurt Canada very badly. He is reversing those worst decisions. I'm talking, pipelines and the oil sands and developing our natural resources. So that's good. Let's give him credit for that. But then another part is it's the same old interventionist government. We're seeing this here with AI. They're talking about digital sovereignty because they want the government to own parts of the AI infrastructure. It's not the role of government to own the hockey team. Okay? They should be saying, we'll create a framework. We will incentivize you through the Tax Act. And so some of the things he's doing, he's going in the right direction. So he's a vast improvement over Justin Trudeau. Some of the things he's doing, I don't think are the right thing, the right direction to go in.
Ian, we'll leave it there. On time, right on cue. Thanks for extending with us. You're great. Come back soon, okay?
My pleasure. Thank you.
Ian Lee right there. He's an associate professor at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers. Powered by North by Northeast Music Festival. Taking place June 10th to 14th across Toronto. iHeart New Music. Stream now, online, on your smart speaker, and preset on the free iHeartRadio app.